You are among the very greatest Americans who will ever live. You are the pride of our nation. You are the glory of our republic. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Commemorations in Normandy, the world pausing to remember D-Day, 75 years after the historic invasion turned the tide of World War II.
The president visiting the cemetery where thousands of American heroes gave their lives liberating Europe from the Nazis.
And Local 10 News is the one and only South Florida station to have a team in Normandy right now. Nicole Perez joins us live with more on this morning's ceremony.
JC and Eric, you guys said it. Today is the day, 75 years ago, the anniversary of the Normandy landings. 160,000 young soldiers stormed the coastline of France, 5 beaches, giving their lives for our freedom. Today, 170 World War II veterans in attendance. The way they were honored, there are no words. The way that they were commemorated for their actions, for their bravery, it was just absolutely beautiful. 30 D-Day survivors were in attendance at the cemetery here for the ceremony. You know, it was the way that they started, they would show each veteran up on a screen, and the thousands of people in attendance, the way they would just look into their eyes, the way they would clap, the way they started crying. It was the most perfect way to honor these men that gave their lives for our freedom, that gave their lives to liberate Europe. It was just the perfect way to start. So let me tell you how it all happened. President Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron arrived on the red carpet following the 2 first ladies. They spoke amongst themselves for a little bit. They smiled, shook hands. They made their way on the way to the stands, on the way to greet the audience. They walked up to the stage and one by one shook our veterans' hands. You could just see the smiles on our World War II soldiers' faces. They were just so happy to be there, so happy to be present and honored in this ceremony.
To more than 170 veterans of the Second World War who join us today, you are among the very greatest Americans who will ever live. You are the pride of our nation. You are the glory of our republic. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
12,000 people filled the cemetery from all over the world, clapping and cheering. Like I mentioned in the beginning, that was happening all throughout the ceremony, listening so intently and feeling every sort of emotion. It was a very poignant, very historical moment to be here. Both presidents presented a beautiful wreath for our fallen soldiers. Then nearing the end of the ceremony, several warplanes flew overhead while both presidents and first ladies were overlooking Omaha Beach, and the crowd just taking it all in. Everybody, of course, recording it on their phones. It really was just a stunning sight to see in the sky, a perfect way to end this ceremony to commemorate our veterans. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, he also awarded 5 American World War II soldiers the Legion of Honor Medal, and that was just another sight to see. I mean, it's just everything that went on here today was just so important, and it was just such a rarity that you get to see these World War II veterans being honored in the way that they were. It really was something so spectacular. Eric and JC.
Nicole, we were watching the ceremony here at Local 10, airing it live, and we saw the president take the moments to turn around, leave his speech, shake hands of these veterans, and just have this emotional moment in front of the entire audience. That was so powerful for us watching. I can only imagine what it was like being there for those veterans and their families.
JC, it really was. Both presidents, they were both very emotional, and every time they would look at them and greet them, some of the veterans, they would try to get up out of their wheelchairs. They wanted to give them hugs. I mean, it was so special. And then the families, they occupied so many seats in the front. So, like I mentioned, 12,000 people filled the entire cemetery. The families in the front, they would get up, they would cheer, they would clap. They got a chance to tour the cemetery, and they got a chance to visit the grave sites. There was an American flag and a French flag. They're all placed at each grave site. Over 9,000 of our fallen soldiers lay here in this cemetery, and those families had the opportunity to walk to each and every one. It was very special for them, very special for the 2 presidents and the veterans and all of us in attendance.
Those men were the very bravest. Those men were just boys. when they stormed that beach and parachuted in so many years ago. They were honored by the president. This, of course, the centerpiece of this European visit by President Trump. Where did he go when they were finished, and what's next? Nicole.
So, Eric, they got a little brief tour of the cemetery by the superintendent. That's when the planes were flying over. They were overlooking Omaha Beach. And from there, he's going to take a working lunch with French President Emmanuel Macron. They headed to Cannes, so about 45 minutes away from where we are now.
Our Nicole Perez live for us this morning in Normandy as we salute all of those who gave their lives and who continue to carry on that living legacy of D-Day 75 years ago today.
Yeah, we're all so touched. Our family members, most of us have somebody who served. And we want you to keep it right here on Local 10 for continuing coverage, because Nicole is the only South Florida reporter in Normandy. She's going to keep working for you. She'll have live reports throughout the day as we mark this 75th anniversary of D-Day.